What can men do against such reckless hate? Ride out and meet them.
This day we fight! By all that you hold dear on this good earth, I bid you stand! Stand of the West!
This day, we rescue a world from mysticism and tyranny, and usher in a future brighter than anything we can imagine.
I've got a lot to say, can't hold it in this time. Got no filter, I got no filter. No filter, I got no filter. No filter, I got no filter.
Welcome to the show. You were one-on-one with Wes the Sports Guy here on YouTube, BitChute, Rumble, and Odyssey, and online all the time at westhesportsguy.com. Bookmark that site if you want to get all my social media links. The podcast link, conveniently located for you at westhesportsguy.com. Leave a 5-star review if you like what you're listening to on all the various podcast platforms. That link again is conveniently located at westhesportsguy.com. Coffee Brand Coffee has tons of new flavors, including orange creamsicle, peaches and cream, sticky cinnamon bun, rocky road, plus with their other classic flavors of blueberry cobbler, salted caramel, and the traditional roast from light, medium to dark, tons of organic teas, and traditional lines of cocoa, not to mention the merch, coffee grinders, and premium snacks to boot. If you like what you see and you're getting your taste buds going, make sure you go to coffeebrandcoffee.com and use that promo code 101west at checkout to save yourself some money on your first, recurring, or many more purchases in the not too distant future at coffeebrandcoffee.com using the promo code 101west. Fair warning, this video might be kind of long, but I'm going to try to keep it as short as humanly possible, but essentially just to go over the details as best that I can explain, because it's still kind of mind-boggling how it all transpired into me getting suspended on Twitter. Yeah, little old me. So here we go. Basically what had happened is that I got an email just before 9 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday that my Twitter account had been suspended. And by reading the email, I saw that it was in regards to a tweet where I was saying that basically with an article that I linked in the tweet that there should be another Nuremberg-like trial with said results after a fair trial, of course. And with that article that was linked in said tweet that apparently got flagged on Twitter, that was a problem, mentioning Nuremberg, because in no shape, form, or fashion did I call out an individual, an organization of any kind in reference to an historical event via Nuremberg after the events of World War II. Now, I've remained consistent in sharing my opinion that these types of events need to happen again with individuals regarding COVID, because as I referenced in that article with the offending tweet, there are too many individuals that are still lying and continue to lie about everything that has transpired with the events of COVID and the madness of 2020, 21, and going forward, which we're still dealing with today. All over the world. I'm not just singling out one country. It's still happening all over the place. People are still lying and also continuing to profit for themselves off of said lies. I demand accountability, and one way of doing that is doing another Nuremberg-like trial for the responsible parties that brought about all of this death and destruction on the world. If you think this Twitter suspension, albeit a temporary one, is going to stop me from continuing that, absolutely not. I'm going to continue to go forward with that. But continuing on with events of me and my Twitter suspension and how everything was transpiring, of course, this is my first time being suspended on Twitter, so there's an appeal process. I went through the appeal process. There's no record. I kind of wish I would have kept what I wrote to Twitter in the appeals process, but there's no record keeping of it to show what I did right in my appeal. But suffice it to say, my first appeal, I outlined the context of what I put in that tweet. That was the offensive one that got flagged. At the time, I thought it was flagged by a random individual on Twitter. Granted, this was a tweet from well over a month ago, before I got flagged. But suffice it to say, in my appeal, I was very specific, within context of what I wrote, what it was about, and said that, hey, I even said in my appeal, the first one, if you require me to delete it, fine, I'll delete it. But permanently suspending my account is grossly unfair. That was the result of the first appeal. But as you can see in the robotic response, it's clearly just a robot that spits this response out. And apparently it takes 12 hours for Twitter to respond to an appeal. Not that I was keeping exact time up to the actual minute second, but this is the robotic response I get back. Thank you for your patience as we reviewed your appeal request for said account. Our support team has determined that a violation did take place, and therefore we will not overturn our decision. Your account has been suspended and will not be restored due to violations of the Twitter rules, specifically our rules around violating our rules against violent speech. Thanks, Twitter. Okay, that was the first appeal. Rejection. Okay. So then, the next day, Friday morning, I appealed again, and I was a little more blunt. Again, no record of what I wrote. I kind of wish I kept a copy of it before I submitted it, but I didn't because, hey, this is the first time being suspended on Twitter. So I went through the process again, went up, typed another appeal, and I was more blunt. And I basically said the same thing again in perfect context of what was written, and I went even further to say, look, being that I am a Twitter Blue subscriber, I think at minimum I should be afforded a human being looking at this appeal and also going through the necessary process to unsuspend my account. And again, reiterating from my first appeal, if I need to delete, if this is going to be deboosted, if this is going to be not advertiser friendly, whatever the case may be, on Twitter side of things, fine, I can accept it, but permanently suspending me is grossly unfair. For what I wrote in that tweet in its context, there's no grounds to permanently suspend me. So then again, roughly 12 hours later, I get the same robotic response back from Twitter saying, nope, our decision stands. So now what was going through my mind going forward with this is that, well, okay, this doesn't mean that I'm going to immediately start creating another account on Twitter. In this process, they also said, do not create, if you try to avoid the suspension with new accounts, you're going to get those accounts permanently suspended too, blah, 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 blah. All that process. Okay, I get it. I was playing by the rules. Not going to try to avoid this. I want to go through the process and appeal it and get a human being to look at this. That was my main sticking point. A human being is clearly not looking at this. So then I thought, okay, let's reach out to a couple fellow YouTubers, and one of them was the Quartering. I humbly asked for any guidance or assistance that he saw fit, gave him all the facts, gave him what Twitter responded to me, what the offending tweet was, gave him the link to the article in perfect context of what I was discussing in the supposedly offending tweet, gave him all the facts of the situation, and left it at that Saturday morning. Little did I expect that there was going to be what he ended up doing, and I am eternally grateful for what he did. He posted this tweet saying, with my screenshots that I provided him, that he thought there was no more permanent suspensions, and he tagged Elon Musk and Twitter support. I was speechless, absolutely gobsmacked. I couldn't believe he did what he did. And seeing the reaction to that tweet and seeing how people were just as surprised and outraged as I was, even though I'm the one that it happened to. And I know that I'm not the only one. I wanted to preface if I did or didn't, now that I'm recording this video, I am not special. I should not have been given preferential treatment of any kind just because I'm a Twitter Blue subscriber. And going forward, that should be the case. I don't believe this is fair in any sense of the imagination on Twitter standpoint for anybody getting permanently suspended, that there should be just only AI looking at the appeals process. That's my belief, that it was just AI looking at the appeals process. Now, as I said earlier, I believe that it was flagged by a random individual, reported to Twitter, and then the algorithm took effect, and then it was AI taking over at that point. At the time, that's what I believed. But thanks to what the Quartering ended up posting, not more than a few days after I was then reinstated on Twitter. And again, when I got reinstated on Twitter, I didn't get any notification, not an email, not a tweet, nothing from Twitter saying that I was put back on. But I do believe that what the Quartering did definitely helped, and anybody else that was tagging anybody and everybody on Twitter, I didn't see everything, but if you did that, I am internally grateful for that. I really believe that was a large part in why my account got some attention. Somebody looked at it, a human being looked at it, pushed a button, and hey, by Saturday night, again, I sent that email Saturday morning. By Saturday night, I realized my account is no longer suspended. I'm actually able to look at things again. I can actually do something with my account. But at the time, I thought that was just randomly reported, and away it went. But a little tidbit of information that I did not see from Twitter Safety's own account that the Quartering shared. Twitter Safety was saying more than 99% of content users and advertisers see on Twitter is healthy. And the reach of hate speech on Twitter continues to represent an extremely small fraction of the overall conversation. This past March, Twitter partnered with Sprinkler, really stupid spelling on that, to understand, measure, and reduce hate speech using its AI-based model, and to further our commitment to create a brand-safe environment for our agencies and advertisers. Eureka! That is the linchpin right there. It was not a user, in my belief, after reading that, because right there at the end, partnering with some AI-based model, some random company, to scour the umpteen ends of Twitter to start flagging so-called hate speech and getting people permanently suspended for so-called hate speech. Now again, if you don't know what hate speech is, if you think it actually is what it sounds like, man, that's got to be some hateful stuff. It's not. There is no such thing as hate speech. It's speech that you don't agree with. It's speech that you find to be against your worldview or against said narrative, like a lot of higher-ups in government agencies want to talk about misinformation, disinformation, hate speech, and all that kinds of stuff. Which bitter irony that happened this past week is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. goes to testify in front of Congress in some committee about censorship, and one particular party decides to censor him, tries to, in front of everybody to see. He's testifying about censorship, and you're then actively censoring him. If that isn't the greatest form of irony, it's going to be hard to top that one going forward. But again, there is no such thing as hate speech. But now we're going down this road again with Twitter. And of course, the main linchpin of all this, bringing this all together for the big picture, CEO, the new Twitter CEO, Linda Yaccarino, hired just before the summertime, back in spring of this year, she called out Elon Musk in a previous interview, well before she got hired as the CEO, about having advertisers being able to curtail things that are said on Twitter. She asked him point blank that question. She is all about the advertisers. She's all about bringing in that kind of revenue. That's her background at NBC Universal, but she's also been a person working inside the World Economic Forum. This is not an individual that's for the user. She's not user-friendly. She's all about making big bucks for the elite, wealthy friends that she's inside and out with. That's what it's all about here. Coming after little old me? No, that's not just because, hey, I'm ruffling some feathers. I don't have a gigantic following. I'm not shy about admitting that. I don't care. I don't want gigantic followings. It's not my prerogative. I just want you to know certain things that I believe need to be put out into the forefront a lot more than they currently are. So I want to continue to get those kinds of messages out there as much as possible, whether if it's in the sports world, whether if it's just true information. That's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I want more information shared. I want more people to be informed And if I entertain you along the way, fantastic. But I want you to stay informed. Now, unfortunately, a lot of this stuff has trickled into the sports world, so I have to delve outside of what I normally would talk about with sports and start putting the truth back into these discussions that are constantly being had in the sports world. But something as big as this that I hold firm that absolutely needs to happen with another Nuremberg, with fair trials, and also a new code for the medical prerogatives going forward, in that you are entitled as yourself, your own individual self, to bodily autonomy and informed consent. Those two things can never change ever again, because if we don't establish that firmly for everybody going forward, what you saw transpire the last few years and still continues to happen at some degree in many places, it's going to happen again for a multitude of other reasons. Use your imagination. It's never going to stop unless they're held accountable. So if somebody that's behind the code writing of this artificial intelligence believes that's hate speech,
Hey, fuck you!
well, tough. You can shove it, because it's the truth. A lot of these folks that created this harm and brought it upon the population need to be held accountable. And I'm going to go to the umpteenth ends of what I can do to get that message out, but it needs to happen. I firmly am with that cause. It needs to happen. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell below to get notified when all the latest videos are posted on this channel, whether it be at YouTube, BitChute, Rumble, or Odyssey. Bookmark westthesportsguy.com for all my social media links. The podcast link, all conveniently located for you at westthesportsguy.com. Make sure you go to coffeebrandcoffee.com and save some money on your coffee, tea, or cocoa purchase using the promo code OneOnOneWest at checkout. And I will see you next time.